Hi there. Welcome. We are doing the Team Spark Facebook content branding training for tonight. We're going to record this call. So I'm going to start out and share my screen. There we go. All right, so let's get started. So the objective for this training is really just to share learning that we've gotten recently at all of the different training and trips we've been on, as well as our experience as marketers, and we'll try to help us all improve our content and our branding on Facebook. So this is kind of a continuation or an add-on to the training that Carrie Heupel did just yesterday for our team from Bob Heilig on how to best leverage the Facebook algorithm. And he talked a little bit about content as well. So I will reiterate some of the things that he said in this training, but then go deeper into content, and it will be very example driven. So I will give you some guiding principles and then show you specific examples of posts that I think held to that principle very well, and those that didn't. So before we get started, I just want to kind of give you some, I guess, credentials as to where all this information is coming from. So I had the privilege and the luck to attend some recent training in Austin, Texas. I got to learn from an RFXer who talked a lot about branding and how best to brand yourself. And then when Kristen and I were in Jamaica, we were exposed to several different people, including Bob Heilig, not in person, but and learned a lot about leading with your why and how best to connect with people and present yourself. So this is kind of an amalgam of all of that learning, as well as my background is I worked in marketing for Quaker Oats and Kraft and Gatorade and McCain Foods for 12 years after grad school. I got my MBA in marketing. And before that, I had a journalism degree from the University of North Carolina. So I have a little bit of experience, but again, some of this is some of my personal opinion as well. But so you get to decide what you want to take from this and what you want to apply to your business. Okay, so let's start off with what does your channel look like? So if you saw the Bob Heilig training on the Facebook algorithm, he talked about this. He said, think about your Facebook page, your personal page, as a TV channel. And what does that channel look like? Does it look like an infomercial? Or does it look like, a fun, entertaining, educational channel that you'd want to watch? So if you haven't done it, scroll through your Facebook page, or if you're on Instagram, take a snapshot of your Instagram page or whatever they call that, and think about what your channel looks like and what story it tells. And one of the most important things I think as you're doing that is look at how much of your story is Rodan Fields. And I think a lot of us, me included, I think too much of our story is about Rodan Fields. And he says, don't be an infomercial. Nobody wants to watch an infomercial. So his guiding principle is no more than a third. He says 2 to 3 out of 10 posts, so it's about a third, a little less than a third, should be about your business. So you really should think about branding yourself as a whole person, not just Rodan Fields. And his kind of philosophy on content is educate, entertain, and empower. So think about find something that you're passionate about. Maybe it is anti-aging, or maybe it's fitness, or maybe it's giving, charities, or kids, or humor, or whatever. Find something, and that will help you create a story beyond just pictures of your dog and Rodan Fields, or whatever, pictures of your kids at Rodan Fields. So kind of think about that, like what could your kind of overarching story be? And I think this is one of the RFXers from Austin that came, and she said, show and share your imperfections. Like, that's the good stuff, right? Like, if you're just posting the highlight reel and you seem like this picture perfect Barbie doll, people I don't want to see that. They want to see the real stuff, the stuff that they can relate to and laugh about, not laugh at you, but laugh with you. So think about that. And then as you're looking at your channel, your story, think about what story are you telling about Rodan Fields? And I think a lot of us are guilty about telling too much about the product. Like, there's so much more to Rodan Fields than just the products. Not that you shouldn't talk about the products, but you need to tell just as you need to tell this whole story about yourself, you need to tell the whole story about Rodan Fields. And the most important thing, I think, is getting personal and weaving your Rodan Fields story into that. I'm saying story a lot, but so talking about your why sometimes when you talk about Rodan Fields, weaving your why into your story and generating intrigue about the business as well. So we're going to get into specifics about this. But first, before we do that, before we get into the examples, I wanted to lay out just some guiding principles when it comes to, this is social media in general, but a lot of this is specific to Facebook because I'm leveraging the learning from Bob Heilig for part of this. So first off, I think it's so important to be consistent. He says post at least once a day. And, consistency really reinforces your message. Most people need to see and hear the message multiple times before they act. Consistency also demonstrates that you're passionate about what you're doing and what you're talking about. And, just being consistent keeps you top of mind with people on social media. So I'm not talking about, being consistent with Rodan Fields per se. I'm talking about being consistent in posting, and Rodan Fields is part of those posts. But Facebook now, this new algorithm favors quality over quantity. So it's more about higher value content less frequently. So we already learned about this with Bob Heilig, but I just wanted to reinforce that. So he says, post at least once a day, but no more than 3 times a day. And for some people, they're like, oh my God, I don't even post once a day, let alone 3 times a day. Whereas other people are on the other end of the spectrum and they're posting 5 or 6 times a day. So this is just, a guiding principle as to what is going to work with this new algorithm. And then he also says, if you post something, regardless of what it's about, whether it's Rodan Fields or a personal post or whatever, if it's getting good response, don't post again that day and compete with it. Just leverage that, the engagement that you're getting, and play into that. Because this is something that I kind of took away from the Bob Heilig training that is a bit of an aha. Like, I was in the mindset that I was posting personal stuff so that I could post Rodan Fields stuff, because you got to post more personal than you do Rodan Fields. And I didn't really care if my personal stuff was getting engagement. I cared more about my business stuff. But in the end, Facebook just cares whether you're getting engagement. And the more engagement you get on any post, the more relationships Facebook thinks that you have, and the more people that are going to see any post that you do. So when you start getting engagement, leverage that. Whatever post it is, you feed that engagement. You start and continue those conversations, because that means, the next time you post something, maybe it's about Rodan Fields, and you're just gonna try to continue that engagement. The other specific thing that he mentioned is don't use a scheduler like Hootsuite, or I don't know what the other ones are. That Facebook doesn't like that. That it hinders the engagement you're going to get because the algorithm doesn't like that. So I don't know if anybody is using those, but you really just need to do it yourself, post it yourself. And then no more. So his thing about, how much of your post should be business versus, personal. So no more than a third should be about Rodan and Fields. And so I was like thinking through that. I was like, okay, what does that mean from a number of posts per week? If you follow his guidelines in terms of frequency, what does that mean? So if you post once a day, which he says is the minimum, that means you're posting 7 times a week. So you can post around twice a week about Rodan and Fields. Not very much about Rodan and Fields then. So maybe you need to step it up and post twice a day. So that means you could post around 4 times a week about Rodan and Fields, which for me, that feels about right, about 4 times a week about Rodan and Fields. If you want to kind of get to the max and post 3 times a day, then that means you can post around 7 times a week about Rodan and Fields. So it's really whatever you're comfortable with. I think I'm in the middle. Like I would like to post around 4 times a week about Rodan and Fields. But what that means for me is I have to step it up on the personal post because I'm not posting 14 times a week or 10 times a week personal posts. So I gotta do more of that. And I talked about this already, about how your goal is to engage your audience on all your posts, not just Rodan and Fields. So, you start a conversation with them, ask a question in your post so that it actually people respond. And then respond to all comments right away. Start a conversation in the comments. Facebook loves that. And then go live. So I have done a few live videos. I think all of them have been about Rodan and Fields. But, when you think about it, they don't have to be about Rodan and Fields. They could be about whatever. But if you do live videos, Facebook loves those. So they're going to get you more viewership, right? You're going to get more engagement in general, which means in the future on other posts, you're going to get more engagement. So think about how you could go live and how you could add value in those live posts. So I'll tell you, one of the things I was thinking about for me is, I don't know whether I'll do this or not, but my idea is like, should I offer anti-aging, like generic anti-aging education on live video? I've done a lot of research. I have a lot of, information about like how we age, why we age, how we can, reverse the signs of aging, not specific to Rodan and Fields per se, but from an ingredient standpoint and a method standpoint. So, maybe I'll share that, but I feel like I have to find a way to do that is entertaining. Like I'm gonna have to find some sort of humorous shtick to do that. So anyway, that's just an idea. All right, lastly, before we dive in, is leverage the 10-10. So if you haven't watched Carrie's video or Bob Heilight's video from Carrie, this is how to best leverage the new Facebook algorithm. So 10 minutes before you post, be social, especially with your prospects. So like, comment, and engage. And then 10 minutes after you post, be social. Certainly on your post, you want to, have all those conversations, but then on other posts as well. All right, so let's dive in. So my guiding principles around content are be single-minded, be relevant, and get personal. And this came about from some conversations with my team where I was like, okay, I feel like we need to get more personal. We need to lead with our why. And, sometimes that's easier to do in conversations, but not as easy to do in social media. So this kind of came about from that. But getting personal, like what that's going to do is add relevance and value. And if your Regina and Fields posts aren't obviously Regina and Fields because they're so personal, then you can maybe squeeze more Regina and Fields posts in versus, a third rule. And, you tell stories. You tell your own story. You tell stories from people you know. So we're going to talk about examples for all these things. So be single-minded. And I am such a stickler for this. I think I crave single-minded more than the average person. But this principle, we learned this in grad school. We talked about this, every time we talked to our ad agency, who, when I worked at Quaker Oats, like they want you to be single-minded because that's the most effective way to communicate to people. So I wholeheartedly believe that every post you do should have one communication point. So ask yourself, what am I trying to communicate? If the answer is more than one thing, then you need to pare it back. So if you're trying to communicate that, Unblemish, helps break the acne cycle, and you're also trying to communicate that Reverse does, X, Y, Z, that's too much. Like, that's too hard to, for people to digest, especially with, the quick attention span, the minuscule attention span that people have on social media. Less is always more in terms of number of images. I say 1 to 2 max. I'm going to show you a bunch of examples there. I think you should be using eye-catching, beautiful images that communicate your message at a glance. If people can't see it in a split second and understand what you're saying, then you have the wrong image. And try to ensure that they can see the whole visual without having to click on it. So I think in your post, you should be able to see the whole visual. And I'm going to show you examples. And then lastly, less is always more in the copy as well. Short but sweet. I think any copy, whether it's an email or a text or whatever, less is always more. So I'm not always able to do this, but I try to keep my copy to a sentence or a paragraph at most that doesn't require people to click on that more button to read the rest. And I can't always do it, but I try. All right, so let's look at some examples. So be single-minded. This is specific to the image. Can you guys see? You might need to get rid of your gallery so that you can see the whole image. So I'm going to get rid of you guys. Okay, so the image on the left, you can see that at a glance, the eyelash image. It doesn't take you long. All you see is like, oh my God, look, her lashes have grown considerably. The image on the right, oh my God, I don't know what. I mean, this could have worked if whoever, I don't know who this was, if she had just shown a picture of the hands and then maybe a picture of, just active hydration serum on its own. But what is all on here? Like you can't, all these 3 pictures on the right, I have no idea what any of these say. I would have to click on each of them individually to, attempt to read them. That one on the bottom right corner, I mean, holy cow, I would never use that image. So be single-minded. Whoops, how do I get down? Whoops, okay. Okay. This image, I just actually saw this Lashing Through the Snow image on Romy Newsed's feed. You're going to see a lot of examples from Romy, and I stole it because I loved it. Again, this one, it plays up the holidays, and at a glance, it's very eye-catching, and you see all of these amazing lashes. The post on the right uses the very same exact image, but then it gets combined with 2 other images such that, you can't, you're not really, you don't know what to look at. And it's just very ineffective in terms of the communication and the eye track. Like, I don't even know where to look on the post on the right. And this example is quite interesting in that I found both of these on one Facebook page. So the image, the post on the left is a very nice before and after, and then you know, a nice simple shot from corporate on reverse, tying it into the holidays. Now, this person used the exact same before and after, but then combined it with all of the regimen holiday, you know, product shots, and then a bunch of other before and afters. So there's a lot going on here visually, which kind of makes my eyes hurt. But then there's so many messages here that I think it's hard to communicate well all four regimens. And I think you could maybe do this image from the top right and just do that all together. But that's still a lot to take in. But then combining it with all of these before and afters, I don't think it's very effective from a takeaway standpoint. Okay, now I think this is the last one for Be Single-Minded. So this one, so the image on the left, Kristen created for our Cyber Monday sale. And this example is meant to demonstrate both being single-minded in the image as well as single-minded in the copy and the text. So the image on the left, you know, very single-minded, eye-catching, big savings on Cyber Monday. The text on the left in that post is our Black Friday deal sold out, but there's still Cyber Monday. Comment below if you'd like an invite. You know, very single-minded. That the image on the right, there's a lot going on there. You have to click on both images to be able to see them all and understand what's going on. I don't even know what this Pick 2 for 100 is, plus there's a free travel size. So there's a lot of offers here. So that is confusing and not very readable from an image standpoint. And then the text. So she's talking about re-entry stuff after the holidays, but with Cyber Monday, you can get some shopping done. Who's checking out the deals, add this one to your list, and then you have to click on it to see more. So I feel like that text, there's just too much going on. And she could have said what she wanted to say so much more simply, and you wouldn't have to, there's no reason why you need to click here. You know, she's not saying anything of real value that would necessitate having to spend time on the text or the visuals. So hopefully that is helpful. Are you guys, well, I guess you guys are muted, aren't you? Okay, I'm gonna put you back up so I can see you. Okay, is everybody doing all right? Can you, yeah, okay. All right, so the second principle, so we've got three principles here. The second principle is be relevant. And this one, you know, is not as, I guess, hard and fast. You know, this one is very subjective, right? But this is more about, like, what are people thinking about right now? What are on people's minds? And try to leverage that. So that could be seasons, holidays, whatever. Another example would be, you know, if you're hearing the same objection from people over and over, that's what a lot of people are thinking about, right? So you may want to answer that objection in a post. So that's another way to try to be relevant. Okay. All right, so a couple examples here, playing up holidays and seasons. So the example on the left is for Mother's Day. I think this is from something I posted, but I stole it from somebody. Thought it was great. I thought the visual was, you know, kind of stunning at one glance, at a, you know, a very quick glance. And this was, you know, like your mom called. She wants this for Mother's Day. I actually think I got a couple of sales out of this post. Although you do see it, you have to click on the text here. So I should have changed the text more here. But and then the example on the right. So this was posted in the summer, and let me just get this out of the way so we can see it. So you guys all know that I'm a huge fan of Soothe, and I think this is the best sunscreen in the world, and I labeled it as such, world's best sunscreen for sensitive skin. And so it's a very simple post, nothing fancy visually, not all that interesting, but it's relevant because it's what people were thinking about then is, oh my God, I need to be putting sunscreen on like crazy because it's so hot and sunny, and I need to be slathering this stuff on my kids. And so, I just said I'm placing an order for the world's best sunscreen. If you want it, let me know. And then I gave, a couple of lines about it. I said this, my kids love it. And that's it. And I think I got like 4 orders. I mean, that's not huge, but like 4 orders, of the sunscreen. So you're bringing people in, and what that took me like 3 minutes to do. Okay. So this one, I love this example. This is a holiday one. This is not a post about Rodan & Fields. And so I think we need to remember that, you can always find ways to, get people's attention and, remind them about our business, but not in an obvious way. So this was, Romy Newstead, the woman who wrote Get Over Your Damn Self. If you're not following her on Facebook, you should. I steal a lot of stuff from her. So I don't know if you remember, but I posted this this same image, not the text, but I posted the same image, and it got so much traction. I didn't say anything about it. I could have leveraged it better. I just said, word or yep or whatever. But so many people commented, said they were stealing it, and they posted it. But anyway, this is about online shopping. It's like reminding people that everybody's shopping online. Well, what's Rodan & Fields? It's an e-commerce business. And so Romy actually, talked more about Rodan & Fields in her post. I think I could have done a better job at not talk about Rodan & Fields, but like kind of leverage this more. So anyway, I think this is a great example. It's so relevant and entertaining. Okay. New Year's is an excellent time. I mean, New Year's is such a big time, time for our business because people are thinking about improving all aspects of their lives. They're thinking about, looking better, feeling better, and, having a better work-life balance, more professional growth, all of that. So that's why first quarter is so big for Rodan & Fields in terms of recruiting as well as sales. So you should leverage that. And so I have a couple of examples here of how people have done that. So Romy is on the left. So she posted this a couple of weeks ago. And hers just said, very simple, I think you should just go for it. So again, it's not about Rodan & Fields. She's, says a little bit. She doesn't say Rodan & Fields, but she says, a chance to start a new business you can't stop thinking about. So that's one of her points in her post. But, so think about that. Like, think of ways that you can generate intrigue without being so obvious about Rodan & Fields, right? And then this is my post from a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. I'm not saying this is a great post necessarily, but this is a way that I was trying to leverage that new year, new you, way of thinking that everybody is on everybody's mind. So that's an example. I can post this this whole presentation if people want to spend more time with these examples. I can upload this to Team Spark, so you don't need to be writing anything down. Okay, and lastly in this section, this is the last one for Be Relevant. this is from, I don't know, a while back for me, but I felt like I kept getting the same objection. This whole natural, I only use natural and organic, um, and we have such good answers to that, but it's kind of hard when you get that objection to answer it, to that person, because they're just going to fight you on it. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to tell the world about it. And I think this, I didn't get hundreds of likes and comments, but I got quite a few, because I think this was information that people didn't know, even some of our consultants. So this is one where you did have to click on the copy, because I felt like I was educating, and I had license to provide more information. So anyway, this is just an example. I created this this image because I went through, like, this is a post I created myself. And I went through the ingredient list of Redefine and, wrote down every single botanical and natural ingredient that I could find. And then I created this image around it. So anyway, that's just an example. Okay, we're gonna keep going. How's everybody doing? Let me look at you. Hi. All right, I'm almost done. All right, so lastly is get personal. So one of the things that we talked about in Jamaica that Bob Heilig has been teaching on, and we've been teaching on it too, but I just feel like the way he said it, it just, a little light bulb went off for me. But so he says the why before the what, which basically means lead with your why. And we've been saying that for a while, but I think I'm a little guilty of this in certain situations. I hop to the what and the how before I get, if I even get to the why. So my example of when I do this is like, if I'm doing a Facebook message, and someone's like, yeah, sure, tell me more. Instead of leading with my why, I tell them the what. I tell them about Verdena Field. And I think by doing that, I'm missing the opportunity to connect with them on an emotional level and generate more intrigue than I would by just telling them about Verdena Fields. So anyway, as I have been scrolling through people's Facebook posts, I realized, you know what, I think we're doing that on Facebook too. I think we are talking too much about the what, too much about the products, and not enough about the why. And so I feel like we need to get comfortable with sharing our why, with sharing our story in every situation. It's easy to do when we're, on a phone call, and, that's part of the script, right? That's how we start, is we start with our story. But, on social media or, in messages, it's not as obvious. It's not as intuitive. So, your story's just got to roll off your tongue, whether it be social media, in person, or on the phone. And you can't just tell your why once. You've got to reinforce it often. You've got to remind people why Verdena Fields is important to you. So you're going to see a lot of examples of this in the presentation. I've told my why a bunch of times on social media, a bunch of different ways too, because it kind of changes. But anyway, think about your why as your mission statement. This isn't not really about Facebook, but Bob Heilig said this in the training we had in Jamaica, and it kind of like, triggered something for me. He said, think about your why as, start with, my mission with this business is. And, we have a formula for how you figure out what your story is. But when he said that, what is your mission with this business? Oh, that just kind of flipped something for me. And I just kind of wrote down some examples. The why that I talk about is, providing a career path for myself with professional growth, team camaraderie, financial security, without sacrificing my freedom or my family. But then I started thinking bigger, like I just want to help people create more possibilities for themselves and their futures. And I want to leave the world a better place for my children, my children's children, kids in need, and my teen. So anyway, it just kind of got me thinking bigger picture. And I thought it might help you think bigger picture too, and help you, dig deeper on your why. So if that helps, great. If not, then no worries. Okay. All right. So get personal. So sharing your story, sharing your why. This is an example. I posted this last month. I love these branded assets from corporate. They're beautiful. They're very single-minded, which I love. And, it forces you to just use one picture, which I love. So anyway, this was a very short and sweet post reinforcing my why. These two and me are why I do what I do. I gave up my corporate career, but I miss me, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's an example. And then I'm going to show you one that I did. This was around spring break. So this was like 8 months ago. So this is another version, a longer version of my why, different pictures, still using those corporate branded assets. I'm not telling you that, any of these are perfect. I'm just saying these are examples of getting personal and sharing my story with people. So some of them are, more detailed about the company, right or wrong. And then I think there's one more. This one's way too long. And I even noted that. So this was over a year ago, September 2016. Don't ask me why it's so long. But I put on the bottom, I think this is way too much text. But so I obviously wanted to share about my why and my story. And back then, I felt like I had to tell more about my corporate background. And now I'm like, oh, forget it, who cares? And so that's, I think, why it took me so long to tell this story. But that's an example of sharing your why, but probably making it your why, your story, too long. All right, now, tell other people's stories. So it doesn't always have to be about you. We have so many stories we can tell. The blog gives you millions of stories. However, I feel like it's best if you know the person in some way, shape, or form. You don't have to be best friends with them, but you can personalize it if you know them. So leverage our team leaders. So I think we all should be. Carrie Heupel officially retires next week? She's already retired her husband, and she's retiring herself next week. We should all be telling that story. I'm sure she's going to be telling it, and I think we should tell a version of that. It's an amazing story. So I'll be doing that for sure. So this is Rachel Selwyn. She's on our team. I met her at our first convention a few years ago. And I talk about that. I talk about when I met her and, look at her. She's, driving a free Lexus. So, this post actually got a ton of traction, 59 likes. That's a lot for me. Well, I'm not Romy Newstead. So anyway, you can get a lot of engagement and generate a lot of relevance and intrigue by talking about other people. So think about that. This is also about telling other people's stories. So these are examples of congratulatory posts. The one on the left I did for one of my new ECs. The one on the right, Romy did for, I don't know why, but it says here. But I love the branded assets in general, but I love them for congratulatory posts too, because it reinforces Rodeo Field in a very simple, beautiful way. And, the message I feel like is just so relevant to the congratulations, whatever the reason for celebration is. So, and then the notice how single-minded the image is. I love single-minded. All right. Here's another example that I think I'm going to steal. I have not posted this one. This is from Romy's page. I guess she must have posted this, but she stole it from, somebody on her team. But I love this post. So, I'm just showing you that there's so many great stories out there. You don't always have to know the person. I think it helps if you do. But there's a lot of good stuff out there. And I love this picture of her. I think Carrie should do, basically the same thing when she retires. And then I think the last one for this part is if anybody has any military wives, military families, you need to tell them the Jen Griswold story. So she's a super successful RFXer that just wrote this book. So this is a Romy post. So she's telling Jen Griswold's story in this post. So I put this in here just in case this would be relevant for anybody on the call, in case you did not know about this new book out there. Okay, so that's your story, your why. Your product story is important too. These pictures are horrible and very embarrassing, but it needs to be done. So this was my product story. I posted this within the context of somebody complimenting on my skin at my son's preschool. So if you haven't done your own before and afters, and a lot of you have, if you haven't, you should. And again, just like you need to reinforce your why story, you need to do that with your product story too. It doesn't mean you just post these once and never talk about it again. And then share product stories of people you know. So personal before and afters, your own or your customers, your team, people that your network knows, they're going to get the most attention. It's more believable if it's somebody that people know. And so if you're not already doing it, you should incentivize your customers to share their pictures with you so you can leverage them. Sometimes they'll just do it on their own, but if they're not, then incentivize them. Give them, offer free glow packs or, $15 off your next order, whatever. You decide what the incentive is. But this picture is actually of our babysitter and dog sitter and her amazing lashes. And she actually became a consultant soon after this post because she was just a PC. All right, and this is the last example. Oh no, this is a couple more. The last product story example. I thought this was great. That Romy, this is from Romy. You can't tell, but the intensive renewing theorem is actually in this picture. But she was at, I guess, a college reunion, I guess. And, she's saying thank you to the doctors for these 4 latest skincare innovations because she's at her college reunion and her, journalism students thought she was, much younger than she actually is. So, you can be very focused and obvious about the products, but you can get creative in how you talk about it. You can personalize it. So think about that. All right, then we're stepping out of the why and the product stories and think about how you can generate intrigue for the business. So one of the ways is lifestyle posts, showing people what this business is allowing you or people to do, like how it has changed their life. So, I took the corporate branded assets, the work from the beach. I talked about how I didn't actually work from the beach, but while I was there, my customers' orders, my team grew, and so did my paychecks, talk about how, not many jobs allow you to take as many vacations as I took this year, and I spelled those out. So, you could do something like that. There's also, team fun posts. So many people I talk to, myself included, that one of the reasons for joining Rodin & Field is the fun and the relationships, the girl time. I remember that when we were in Austin, the RFXer that came to train, she was like, it's all about that girl time, that lady. I think she called it lady time. That so many people are missing from their lives that Rodin & Field actually brings back for you. So share that, even if you're not there yet, you're not, doing these trips with, 15 of your favorite Rodin & Field people, share other people's, it doesn't have to be about you necessarily. But there are ways. I think I have an example next here. So it can just be about meetings, like look at this, cute little coffee shop meeting on the right. And Romy talks about, she brings up the new product. She talks about how many kids they all have, all the people that got together. So, you can generate intrigue and show how much fun you're having from, getting together in a coffee shop. Or, we need to do this for our Australia calls, but the Zoom calls. Romy does a really good job about kind of talking about the spread of their team all over the world, and how much fun they have getting together virtually. So it doesn't have to be a trip to the Caribbean. This is a lot of information here, but this is just a way to show you how you can take some of the business data that we've gotten and try to make it more intriguing by personalizing it. So the one on the left is from Romy. I think this is a little bit long. I think she's a brilliant marketer and writer, but I do think she can be a little bit long-winded, and I think this is one of those examples. But she's trying to take some of the data around who our consultants are and put it into perspective. So that's what she did on the left. On the right, we were in Bahamas and they announced that we were #1. And so I wanted to leverage that. People are going to focus on the Bahamas, the cute little snorkeling picture, but I wanted to try to link that with some interesting business data. And then this is just another example of that. Same thing. Oh, all right. So I think this is a couple more examples, 2 more examples. I love this post. I don't even know who this guy is, but I stole it from somebody. And his quote is, "Stop focusing on dumb shit." And oh my God, that was so relevant for me in my old life at PepsiCo at Quaker. Oh my God, I always felt like we were focusing on the stupidest shit and spending so much time on it. And so I played that back. This is not about Rodin & Field, specifically, but I talk about okay, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not there. I'm not in the corporate world. And if I am focusing on dumb shit now that I'm the boss, I'm the one to blame. Boss says go to bed, so I'm going. So anyway, I love that. I feel like this is a great example of how you can take generic content, but make it relevant. It's already, make it relevant in general, but somehow tie it in a subtle way to your business. And then this is kind of a more specific example of generating intrigue. And just, I included this because it just has more details of, how you might try to connect with people. Mondays, I must have posted this on a Monday. So anyway, you can look at that in more detail in the presentation if you would like. Okay, Lastly, we're going to wrap this up. What time is it? This is a tip from the RFXer from Austin, Carly Mazer. She puts all of her pictures into specific albums. And she does that so that she can leverage her Facebook page as a recruiting tool. She sends people to her Facebook page and says, look in the Business Redefined album. And in that album, you're going to see how this business can change your life. And she puts, anything that's like team fun, celebrations, business accolades there. So they're going into her on her Facebook page, but they're organized into that album. And then I forget what her team name was. So whatever your team name is, mine's Sizzle Squad. You would put all of your welcome posts there. So, she has a huge team. And so she'll say, she'll send people and she'll say, go to the Sizzle Squad album and you'll get a sense for all the people that you'll be working with. You'll get a sense for who's on our team and what kind of background they have and how, successful and professional they are, whatever. And then she puts all of her product posts, all of her product images in, whatever, call it life-changing skincare. So anyway, that's just a, kind of a tip that may help you organize your images in a way that will be useful for you and for your prospects to, to view. All right, I think that's it. Yep. All right, girls, does anybody have any questions? I guess let me stop the recording real quick. How do I do that? Oh, wait, stop share.